Good morning everybody, Borodar and bonjour. A bit unusual today. I'm usually a Welshman on a motorbike, but I'm actually going to be Welshman in a pair of walking boots. My good lady wife told me the other day I needed to move more, so I'm taking her up and I'm going to go walking up the West Beacons on the Black Mountain or the Mynydd D to find the wreck of a World War II Wellington bomber which had a Canadian aircrew on board. Unfortunately, the plane crashed and it killed all 6 crew members. The plane was designated MF509. It's quite a well-known wreck. So I'm starting off my little walk. I think it's about 6 miles in total. I'm just hoping I can get to the top of the mountain because I'm probably not as fit as I should be. And I'm starting just north of Glyntowie near a church. And I'm going to walk up the mountain, then back down again, take some pictures, give you a little bit of blurb about the crew and about the aircraft itself, about the Wellington bomber. There's a guy on the internet whose name I can't remember, but I'll put him in the link. Andy something, Andy Mad About Walking, something like that. Andy did a great video on it and he sort of inspired me to get up there. So I'll be setting off and I've got all the safety equipment because I'm going on my own. I've got an emergency survival bag if the weather goes crap, although the forecast is good. Waterproofs, food, water, and I've also got a personal location beacon which I used to keep on my boat, which I no longer have, and that talks to satellites. There might be a mobile signal up there which will be immensely useful for navigating as well, because OS maps do a superb application and you can find out where you are to within a few meters and actually see your position on a map. If it works, I'll show you that and take a picture of it. I'll see you later. Ta-da! Any excuse to buy a new map. I've bought sheet OL12 in the Ordnance Survey OS Explorer series, which is a 1 to 25,000 scale. I've marked my intended route in red. The blue dot is the location of the wreck of MF509, and I've also put in the 6-figure grid reference if you want to find it yourself. This is the entrance to the path to go up the mountain to Carreg Goch and then up the farm drive. Well, I've just got to the stream and this is now the bottom of the mountain. Just had a nice chat with a guy called Di who lives near me in Capel Hendra, and he's been giving me some great advice on some walks around here, and he's lived here all his life. Well, I've got to say, the first part of the climb is incredibly steep. Bit out of breath, so I'm having a break for a drink and some beef jerky. There's a stream at the bottom and it's quite challenging to cross actually since it's been raining. It was sort of, I thought 70-30 I was going to make it across without getting my feet wet, which I did. But I'm not looking forward to going back over it. Well, I'm now in an area of what's marked on the map as shakos, and you can see these craters and I'm surrounded by them. Got a little path over there. One thing there as well. One thing these things have got in common, they're basically where the ground's collapsed into a cave system, so keep well away because there might be a bloody great hole at the bottom and you'll disappear forever. When I was a little kid, my grandfather, who was from Ebervale, always used to be terrified of a mountain up above him called the Dom, and he never wanted me to go up there because he said there were holes that would swallow you up, and I think he was probably referring to these things. So I'm walking on a bearing now towards the crash site. I think it's about another half a mile before I get to a mountain lake. Well, I say it might even be a pond actually, it's not that big. And I'll chat to you when I get there. Well folks, I got to the mountain lake, and if you can see the limestone ridge at the top of the screen there, behind there, a few hundred yards away, is the wreckage of MF509, who I'm debating whether to either climb up over the top and be brave, but I am knackered at the moment, or walk around it, which I'll probably do. In the meantime, I'm going to stock up on some water and some food, get my energy levels back. One thing I've learned, leaving the path, it's very easy to get lost in the mountains. My instinct, and I put that in quotes because we don't really have an instinct, only pigeons have them. My instinct was to walk in one direction, and I checked my compass and I was about 40 degrees off. So, as the age-old rule says, always trust your compass. I trusted my compass and I now have arrived where I wanted to be. So, lesson learned there, keep checking your compass. The OS map application is absolutely fantastic for confirming your position as well. I love it. And luckily, I do have a signal up here. It's not the best, but it does actually get data here so I can see where I am. Anyway, I'll see you in a few minutes. I'm going to have a drink now and something to eat. Just tried to refly the flag. It's a little bit tattered after being battered up here. It's incredibly windy. Very sad. Well folks, I'm hiding down behind a bunch of boulders because the wind near the crash site is ridiculous and you wouldn't hear it because of the wind noise. So I'll just tell you a little bit about MF509. On the 20th of November 1944, the Royal Canadian Air Force MF509 Wellington bomber was on a night training exercise. Unfortunately, one of the engines developed a problem. I think it was icing of the carburettor. Then they hit a cloud full of rain which froze on the wings. It was heavily iced up. Now I think they descended probably to try and thaw the wings out. Unfortunately, when they descended, they hit Carreg Goch, which means red stone in Welsh, and that is the site of the crash. The crew were Canadians and they were known as the Alouettes, which is the word for lark in English. The 6 men killed, I'll read their names out now and their ages. Sergeant Charles Hamill, he was the pilot, aged 21. Sergeant Jules Robert René Villeneuve, navigator, 22. Flying Officer William Joseph Allison, bomb aimer, 28. Sergeant Joseph Paul Ernest Burke, air gunner, 20. And Sergeant Arthur Gruy, air gunner, aged 22. And Sergeant Gerard Douceblanc, air gunner, aged 20. So they weren't much more than kids. It's very, very tragic. But there's a story goes on after that tragic sort of beginning. There's a story which is sort of happy, if you can call that happy. The Canadian airmen were buried up near Chester in the Canadian war grave. And nothing much was known about what happened to them back in Canada for 60 years. Now, it turns out just 2 days after the crash happened in 1944, a local man, I think by the name of Eric Price, found a black and white photo amongst the wreckage. And he took it home and it lay in his photo album for over 60 years. Now, 61 years later, I think it was 2005, I think it was his niece, found the photo. I think Eric had now passed. But now we've got the internet. And she put the photo on the internet to try and find out what happened to some of the families of the airmen. Anyway, cut a long story short, McGill University in Montreal picked up the photo and started to research it, and they actually found the families. So some Canadian people have been over here who are descendants and relatives of the airmen, and there are always poppies on the site, and there's a Canadian flag with the aircrew's name on, which is a nice fitting tribute. And I think every year one of the local walking clubs actually comes up on Armistice Day and places a wreath on the wreck site. So it's quite moving when you think, you know, they were much more than children. It's awful, really. Then I'll tell you a little bit about the Wellington bomber. Now, if you look back at my videos, you'll see that if you see the wreck of the wing, it was full of squares, like a lattice work of squares. Now, the Wellington had something called a geodesic frame, which is what that is. It meant they could build the aircraft lighter and stronger, and it was designed by none other than Barnes-Wallis of bouncing bomb fame. Now, the Wellington, they produced nearly 11,500 of them, which is a huge amount of aircraft, and it was basically the backbone of Bomber Command. And they could actually build one in a remarkable 60 hours. They were built in 2 sites, Broughton, I can't remember the name of the other site. And at one point in the war, as a propaganda exercise, the workers in Broughton gave up their weekend to build a Wellington. And to prove a point, they actually constructed a full Wellington bomber in 23 hours and 50 minutes. And most of those workers are semi-skilled, which is a testament to everybody involved, really, at that time. Quite a remarkable feat. I think the Wellington, from memory, it had a range, let me just check now, around 2,500 miles. Let's have a look now. Yeah, just over 2,500 miles and a top speed of 235 miles an hour. And typical of airmen, they love nicknames. The Wellington was nicknamed the Wimpy after the fat character in Popeye, J. Wellington Wimpy, because they thought it was fat and ugly. So there you are, a little bit of history about the Wellington as well. Anyway, I'm about to start going down the mountain now. I'm heading pretty much due east from the crash site to head back to the path which will take me down the mountain back towards Glyn Towie. Catch you in a bit. Bye-bye. Well, I'm back at the car, folks, and good news is I didn't have to cross that bloody stream. I found an alternative path, and it's actually, I think it's an easier start point and easier finish point, is actually the car park from the Danarogov show caves. There's a plaque there showing several other aircraft wrecks over the beacons, and you don't have to cross the stream. And I'm not joking, it would be very, very difficult after a period of rain. It really would. I was sort of... I thought I'd get across dry this morning, but if I had got wet, it wouldn't have really surprised me. And I wasn't looking forward to coming back. Now my legs are tired. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you do, please give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. See you next time. Bye-bye.